Our next question, you put this in the spreadsheet before the final on Tuesday. So once I read the question, your viewers will know whether you guessed correctly who won the final. You wrote that after losing the final on Monday, second time's the charm for Ryan Searle as he beat Gary Anderson. No, you didn't put that. You tipped it correctly. You wrote Gary Anderson in full flow to win PC2. Is this the year we see him go on a deep singles run on TV again, or even win silverware on the stage? And mind you, this question you put on the spreadsheet before the final.
Yeah, check me out with that tip there. Very impressive stuff. I'm certainly going to take it. With Gary Anderson as well, with that question, I added in the singles run on TV part there because we did see him and Peter Wright make the final of the World Cup together last summer. But as far as deep runs in singles events, the only one we've really seen for the best part of 2 years now, you would say, is the Grand Slam last year when he made the quarterfinals. And we all remember that epic game that he had with Luke Humphries, 16-14, Luke averaging 103.5, Gary at a tick under 100, over 30 legs. And had Gary won that game, could he have gone on that Sunday in Wolverhampton and won the title? Who knows? But we know the Grand Slam is an event that Gary Anderson has often said is his favourite. I don't know how much that wanting to win that particular title could have been a factor, but you look at the other players that were in that semi-finals on the Sunday, I think he would have gone in as one of the favourites, possibly the favourite to win the title. But back to today, the second Pro Tour of the season, and it was vintage Gary Anderson, 101 average for the day, the 114 first nine average, which is pretty frightening. But the way he's gone through the field, and okay, the first round 91 average, you wouldn't have filled in with huge confidence, but then 106.98, the 117 average against Andy Barton's, a 97 against Barney, the 108 against Peter Wright, and then a 101 against Ryan Searle. And how many times was he going 6, 7, 8 darts into a 9 darter as well? Twice in the final, I think it was, once against Peter Wright in the semi-finals. These are the levels that we know Gary Anderson can hit in these Players' Championship events. He can rock up on the day and just like that, bang, 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 he can put on a run of performances like that. And you look at last year, he got to 5 finals on the floor, won 3 of them. I think really the question is, can he sustain this over a longer period more than just the one day when the tournaments, when we get to those stage events, when they're over a weekend, when they're over a week, can he keep that run going? Because we've seen before that if you do drop below those levels, you are more likely to get caught out. So you look back to Gary Anderson's career and he's won plenty of events on stage in front of the cameras. But the last time he's won an event on TV, on stage, take out the World Cup in 2019, his last singles one is the Champions League of Darts 2018. So we're going back 5-6 years now. And back then, Gary Anderson, he was a regular in the Premier League, the World Series. He was getting an awful lot of stage time. These days, we know Gary's getting towards the end of his career. He said that himself, but he's more towards the end than he is the beginning now. But he's going to play what he wants to play. And with these Euro Tours, if they're easy to get to for him, he is in that position now where he is going to be seeded for them. He doesn't have to enter the qualifiers and he'll go to the ones that he wants to. And we've seen already, he's entered for the first 2 of the year next month. He's firmly in that Pro Tour top 16. The title's keeping him in there as well. But he does look to be more up for playing now. And than he has been for a few years, and you've only got to look at how he's playing on the floor. He's enjoying his darts, and if he can produce that run of games together on a Euro Tour weekend in a week-long event on TV, I do think there is going to be a run coming for Gary Anderson on the stage. And 2024, it looks to be the year where we are going to see Gary Anderson more often on the stage. We're going to see him in more of these Euro Tour events, maybe back in the European Championships as well. It seems a long way off at the moment, but I can see him going on a run on the Euro Tour, maybe making a semi-final or a final, and that could just be what sets him up to maybe replicate that on TV later in the year as well.
Yeah, Gary Anderson, you say, because he says that he's nearing the end of his career, but there's not really much that seems to show that he's moving backwards. If anything, he looks like he's moving back toward where he was when he was number 2 in the world and the only legitimate week in, week out threat to Michael van Gerwen. Although right now it wouldn't be as the only threat to Michael van Gerwen. It would be one of many threats to multiple different people. But just in terms of where his game is right now, if you look back over the last 4 years on Dart Connect, his Players' Championship averages in 2020, weird year, I know, 97.71. 2021, where he dropped down quite a bit. Another weird year, of course, lost 2.5 points of that 95.14. 2022 back to 97.54. So again, back around where he was in 2020. And I think probably not, probably a point and a half below where he was at his best. We don't have obviously Dart Connect data from 2016, but it still, getting back to where he was pre-pandemic and not that far off from where he was at his best. Then last year, he put 2 points on that average, 99.43. And maybe that's the freedom of just playing because he enjoys playing and wants to make a little extra money, and there's not pressure anymore on him. He's no longer in the Premier League. Maybe that took some freedom and he got back to what we were calling last year, at least on the floor, his best. Well, we were wrong, because apparently he was nowhere near his best last year. 99.43 on the floor. That is just absolutely pathetic compared to where he is now. He's averaging 101.67. Okay, it's only 2 tournaments. It's only 9 matches. And most likely it's going to regress. But it was a ridiculous performance over the 2 days. Starting on the Monday, he went out to Lee Evans, left 8 after 12 darts. To force a last leg decider. Lee Evans took it out in 14, averaged 103 in that match. It was not enough to win. Not that he played poorly, just Lee Evans, great timing in that match. And that's sometimes what you need to do. And Lee Evans, a player we definitely need to look out for this year. He was quiet last year, but had a fairly good year. And to beat Gary Anderson when you average 103 is nothing to scoff at. I'm sorry, when Gary averages 103, that is. Lee Evans didn't average 103, although I'm sure he has the game in the locker there somewhere. But then what did he do en route to the title? 3 of the 5 highest averages across the day for anyone. A 106 against Adam Gavlas, a 108 against Peter Wright in the semifinal in a match that was tighter than the stats would have showed. And then the highest average that Gary Anderson's ever recorded on Dart Connect with 117.12 against Andy Bottins. And he just blitzed Ryan Searle in the final. It was a match that was a weird match. They both went off the boil at opposite times to one another. There were not many competitive legs. If you look at, especially after the first few legs, if you look at the rest of the way, what the players were left on, 250, 80, 133, 120, 81, 156, 198, 136. They weren't competitive legs, but they were all good legs one way or another. Ryan Searle would throw an 11 darter. Gary Anderson would throw a 10. Gary Anderson threw another 10. Gary Anderson was 3 times on a 9 darter. It was just vintage Gary Anderson, and then maybe a couple more points added onto the average on top of that. Is this the year Is this the year based on the last 4 or 5 years where he does take that next step on television? You have to think it's a possibility. He's playing well enough. He's playing the best we've seen from him in a very long time. And maybe without the pressure on him, he will make that next step. So I'll say yes. Because there's no reason to doubt it. He's just playing too darn well.